Hola and welcome to today's episode in which I attempt to make frijoles borrachos, which is also known as drunken beans. I've seen a couple videos for frijoles borrachos on YouTube over the years and thought, oh, that sounds like a nice, interesting thing to try. I've been having a really bad pain and fatigue flare-up for the last couple of weeks. I've not done any filming at all because I've just been in agony. So I thought, oh, maybe the bean recipe would be a nice, somewhat gentle, easy one to do. So that's what we're going to make. We're going to be taking some beans and some beer, mixing them up with some other tasty things and then banging them in the oven. Should be nice and minimal effort, minimal strain on my body. I'm loosely basing mine on a recipe I found on allrecipes.com. I'll stick the link down in the description for you. Classically, the dish is made with pinto beans. I couldn't find any, so I've gone for cannellini and black beans. Beans get drunk classically on Mexican beer, but I fancied a bit of a deeper, darker kind of flavour, so I've just gone for this Bishop's Finger dark ale. I put lager in the steak and ale stew. I thought I had a dark ale, didn't, so I had to kind of try and make the flavour. Yeah, and I just thinking on that, lager's got quite a distinct bittery light flavour, but I want something a bit dark and more round. But use whatever you've got, whatever you fancy. The recipe says to preheat the oven at 400 Fahrenheit, 200 centigrade. I don't know if that's fan, and I've got a feeling that a lot of American ovens aren't fan assisted. I'm going to put mine on 180 just to be on the safe side, and I can always crank it up if it needs to. You can do this dish on the stove, but I've decided to do it in the oven just so it's a bit easier and I don't have to stand there and stir the bottom of it, and then I can just take things a bit easier. Yeah, so you've got two options there. I'm going to open the beans and just let them drain. If you've got dried beans, you can definitely do that. That'd be nice on the stove, and then you get them, you know, there's a nice texture to them. In with the cannellini. And then the black beans. I'm just draining these, but I'm not going to rinse them. I'm not going to take off the kind of the goopy liquid because that's going to add a nice bit of thickener. I'm going to make the frijoles in Old Faithful. So you'll have seen this being used in many recipes. As long as it's heat proof, you can use any kind of casserole dish. So let's head over and start building things in there. I'm going to do a heaped tablespoon of light brown soft sugar and the same of dark brown soft sugar. And then I'll pour on 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. So these two are to give it a nice bit of sweetness, but also some tangy, zingy brightness. I'm going to let that start melting the sugar. I've got a variety of tomatoes here. I've got some cherry and then some just sort of bog standard small tomatoes. If you struggle when you're cutting tomatoes, try and find a serrated blade. That just makes the job a little bit easier. Cherry tomatoes I'm just going to halve, and I'm leaving the little stalk end in there because they're fairly small, so it's not too tough or anything. There's 320 grams of tomatoes, but there'll probably be about a cup or so, maybe a cup and a third. And then for the bigger ones, I'm just going to cut that bit out. Probably do quarters and then split those kind of down the middle, like that, I think. Give this a bit of a stir just to get that sugar melted. Feel free to add more sugar if you like your beans very sweet. I don't have such a sweet tooth. I'm going to use 3 little red onions. I'm using red because that's what I've got. It would be, you know, probably better, tastier to use the big white ones, or if you can get the Spanish yellow onions, that kind of thing. Take off the little sprouty end. Slice down the middle. You want to take off the top couple of layers. The outside one's papery, and then the underneath one just can be a bit tough. And then make a series of vertical slices. Spin it and make some horizontal cuts. I've had this bag of dried chilies in the cupboard for a while, so I'm going to use that, partly to use them up and partly because I forgot to order fresh chilies. So, you know, always worth having dried in a pinch if you're forgetful like I am. Just going to try a bit, see how hot they are. They're fairly mild, so I think I'll do 8, maybe 6 or 8. I've got 8 pieces, but some of them are just little bits. I'm going to put seeds and everything in. If you don't want the chilies, skip them or try and find some really mild ones. Use whatever you like. Break them down into slightly smaller pieces. I'm going to get these straight into the casserole dish, just so then they can start softening. I'm going to add about half a teaspoon of salt. You can always add a little bit more at the end if it needs it. About half a teaspoon of black pepper. I've got some dried oregano. I'll do about a teaspoon. If you can get hold of the Mexican type, definitely use that. A tablespoon of smoked paprika. I'm I'm going to use Dijon mustard in mine. You could use just standard yellow mustard as well, but you might want to double the amount. Do about a tablespoon. And then a heaped teaspoon of cayenne pepper. It's just different types of chili. You'll get heat in different parts of your mouth. Give this a stir to get the spices and herb mixed in. But if you put the onions and beans in at this stage, it's just going to make it a bit more difficult to stir everything thoroughly. I'm going to do, I think, half the bottle, which is about 250 mils, so it's just over a cup. And then I can always add a little bit more because I just want to stir the beer in with the spicy liquid. Then I can add the beans and then maybe add a bit more beer. Got some of the cooking chorizo from the Squeaky Bean Company. If you've seen the breakfast crinkle cake, I scattered this on top. The flavour and texture are amazing. I've not cooked with it before, so I thought I'll stick one of them in. It comes with 2 pieces that big, so I think I'll cut one into quarters. Texture's perfect. You get these kind of little fatty globules. And then I'll just take that down a little bit. Drop the chorizo in. Pour in the beer. If you're not vegan, but you're making this for a vegan, you need to make sure the beer is vegan. Yeah, the stuff's in everything. You've got to check everything before putting it in your mouth. The reason a beer or any alcohol wouldn't be vegan is what they filter it with. In wine, they sometimes use egg whites. In beers, they use something called isinglass, which is the swim bladder of fish. I think what the mechanism is that the proteins in either egg white or isinglass, it clings to the sediment that's within the booze and then forms clots essentially, so then that can be scooped out. More breweries are becoming good at labelling the beer whether it's vegan or not. Like for example this one here, it says Vegan Society. I'll also drop a link down to Barnivore in the description for you. It's like an online directory, so you can search to see if anyone's uploaded any information from the breweries. So now I'll add in the onions and then the star of the show, the frijoles. Give this a good stir. So that's all nicely combined. I might put in a bit more beer. Having a look at the recipe, and it doesn't say anything about making sure everything's submerged, but I think that should be okay. Because once the onion softens, everything's going to sink. All right, let's pop that in the oven. Got that on the middle shelf. I'll keep it in the oven for about an hour, maybe hour and a half, until the liquid's all reduced and thick, looking a bit gloopy and delicious. See you soon. It's time to try out some of these frijoles. Yum, yum, yum. So I've dished out a little portion. So you can see the liquid's all reduced wonderfully. The smell of it's lovely and kind of smoky from the paprika and kind of sweet and tangy. It's a bit like barbecue sauce. It's that kind of scent to it. Cheers. Ooh, that's amazing. It's rich with loads of amazing flavors. But I don't think we put any fat in there. There's no oil or anything. So it is very light, which is surprising because it does taste amazingly rich. Yes. I need to talk and I can't stop eating. I'm gonna put it down so I'll stop eating. Some really nice textures in there. So you've got a bit of crunch from the onions. The beans that I put in there, the cannellini and the black beans, they've got a nice bit of texture to them. You could have it as a side dish. What I've started doing with tofu is slicing it and then mixing chicken flavour stock powder with some Old Bay seasoning and really packing the outside of the slice and then air frying it for 15 minutes. And the outside goes kind of a little bit chewy and crispy, but the inside lovely and soft and a little bit, chewy as well. And I think the flavour of the Old Bay would go amazingly with those beans. It would just sing together. You could combine the two of those, the tofu and the beans, into a burrito. Make some rice to put in there as well, or some couscous if you haven't, if you want something done quite quickly. That'd be incredible. The soft tacos that I made a while back, if you don't want to go to the hassle of doing all the mixture with the tofu, you could do like a bean taco. It would be really nice as like a dip for chips. Might be a bit too chunky. So what you could do to get around that, dice the onions finer. Once you're at this stage, you can maybe go in with a potato masher and just break everything down a little bit more. Because otherwise, if you pick it up, everything's just going to flop off, which is annoying and painful if it's on your lap. Play around trying different beans in there. Kidney beans, they will soften much more than these have, but they've got a flavour that's quite nice. Yes, you could do things like that. Butter beans, I think I might try butter beans in the next one. Those kind of big ones, because they're quite creamy and I am glad I went for the dark ale, but it will be interesting to try it with a regular kind of Mexican style lager. That would be good, just to know what it's like. But I do like the depth of flavour that's in there. Works perfectly, especially with that smoked paprika. I reckon you could also put things like pui lentils in there, the kind of bigger ones, because they maintain the shape really nicely. Maybe some buckwheat groats, like put them in uncooked. Maybe a splash of extra liquid. And that'll soak up into the buckwheat. It'll just taste amazing. Even though I put 8 chilies and the cayenne in there, it's still not blown my head off. It's perfect. It'd be really nice with some chipotle peppers if you can buy them in jars, or ancho. Have a look in the supermarket and see if you can find any jars of different peppers. You could even put bell pepper in there, you know, like the red and yellow ones, that'd be great. I keep those dried onion pieces. You'll see me use them in a few different recipes. So I reckon if you keep some of those in your pantry and then use tinned cherry tomatoes, so you can easily pull together a delicious little dish just from the pantry. I'm gonna have these for dinner, and I think I'm gonna cook up a pot of sushi rice. It's got a really nice plump grain. It's almost bouncy, a bit chewy. So it's just a little bit more interesting than a standard basmati rice. I might freeze a small portion, a very small portion, and then I can let you know in the pinned comment how well it defrosts and reheats. Beans can be a little bit finicky after you've defrosted them, but I reckon should be all right, as long as you stick to beans that have got a bit of firmness to them. Kidney beans, probably not, but those two I reckon might be quite good. At some point I might try doing it with dried beans, so soak them overnight and then let them cook in the oven. So I might have to increase the cooking time to 2 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that. But you'll get an even better texture using the dried ones that you've soaked. I'll update the pinned comment anytime I tried something new with it. I can't detect any of the alcohol flavour. There's a taste there that I know is beer, but there's no kick or anything of alcohol. And heating alcohol does burn most of it off. There will be trace elements. So if you're preparing the dish for perhaps an alcoholic who's, you know, doesn't want anything and, you know, avoid things like that, or ask them first before making it, just to see what their thoughts are on that. Just always be respectful of other people's choices. In terms of kids, should be fine. You know, there might be a very small amount of alcohol left in there, but not enough to get them borrachoed. After the beans went in the oven, I started another video making pancakes. So I'm gonna roll straight back into that one. And then my patrons, I'm going to let them vote which is the next video that comes out. So if you want in on some of that decisive action, I'll pop the link down in the description where you can sign up. There's behind the scenes content. I'm sharing some craft projects that I've got on the go. I'm showing the process videos and sharing little thoughts as they come to mind. While I'm on the topic of Patreon, I want to say a massive thank you to my supporters. It's great having you on board. Thank you eternally. Hit subscribe if you want more vegan recipes served into your inbox every week. Turn on notifications if you want to be alerted as soon as they're ready. While you're waiting for the next one, drop a little like down below and then head over to this one.